Petrol or diesel? There are pros and cons to each type of car depending on how much they cost to buy and run, how they feel to drive, and their effect on the environment. And so in this video, I'm going to explain to you the CarWow top 10 things you need to know when deciding between a petrol car or a diesel car with the help of these two cars. There have been a lot of news stories recently demonising diesel engines, and it all pretty much started with the Volkswagen emission scandal. There's also the health implications, and that's been in the press a lot recently. So diesel engines give out more small particulate than a petrol engine. The older diesel engines are the ones that are the worst culprits for this. The very latest modern diesels are fitted with particulate filters to help reduce the amount of particulates that are being emitted into the environment. Like for like, a petrol car will emit more carbon dioxide than the equivalent diesel, and carbon dioxide is the greenhouse gas and it can cause climate change. However, while diesels may emit less CO2 than a petrol engine, they actually emit more nitrogen dioxide, and that can cause smog, acid rain and respiratory problems in humans. In other words, diesels are worse for the immediate health of people, petrols are worse for the long-term health of the planet. To help combat the harmful nitrogen oxide emissions, certain cars use a system called AdBlue. And what it does, it reacts in the car's exhaust system with the nitrogen oxide gases to produce harmless nitrogen and water vapour. This system isn't actually used on all diesel cars. For instance, this Renault doesn't use it, but something like a Citroen C3 1.6 diesel does. You actually add this to a separate tank. It doesn't go in with the fuel, and you'll probably have to top up the car once every couple of thousand miles. You can do that yourself, or you could ask your franchise dealer to do it for you. The popularity of diesel cars has reduced in recent years. So in 2011, the market share of diesels was 51%, but now it's down to 44%. And that switch is mirrored on CarWow. So we've seen that over the past 3 months, the number of orders for diesel engine cars has dropped by 10%. This is a Renault Kadjar, and I got it in top of the range Signature S nav trim, and if you get it with the 1.2 litre 130 horsepower turbo petrol engine, it will cost you, with a manual gearbox, around £25,000. But if you get the exact same car, Renault Kadjar Signature S nav trim, with a 1.5 litre diesel engine with 110 horsepower, it'll cost around £27,000, which means that the diesel costs about £2,000 more than the petrol for this car. Now, the price differential changes depending on which manufacturer you're talking about. Generally speaking, the diesel will cost you more to buy than the equivalent petrol. Now, if you click up there, you can go to carwow.co.uk to build your ideal new car and get prices from top dealers. Obviously, the main reason that you pay extra for a diesel is because it's going to be less expensive to run. But let's talk about some of the costs. So in terms of servicing, there's actually nothing in it between this diesel Kadjar and the petrol one. In terms of insurance, very similar. In terms of taxation, well, in the first year, the diesel one will cost you £140. This petrol one will cost you £160. But for every year after, they're the same, £140. So really, it all comes down to your fuel bills. So Renault says that this diesel Kadjar will do 72 miles per gallon. This petrol one, however, 50 miles per gallon. Now, we all know that it's actually pretty hard to get close to those claim manufacturer economy figures out in the real world. For instance, this 1.5 litre diesel, it's actually averaging 55 miles per gallon. The 1.2 litre turbo petrol, that one's averaging just over 35 miles per gallon. And that means that 50 quid's worth of fuel in this diesel would actually get you 497 miles, whereas 50 quid's worth of petrol in that 1.2 litre, that will get you 327 miles. Now, based on those figures, if you do the maths, you'd have to do 38,000 miles in order to recoup that £2,000 that this diesel costs more than the petrol in terms of fuel savings. So you've really got to think long and hard about the kind of mileage you do and how long you plan to keep the car as to whether it's worth paying the extra for the diesel. Running costs are only part of the story when you're deciding whether you want a diesel or a petrol engine. For instance, they do feel a bit different to drive. So a diesel, it produces most of its power low down the rev range. Let's actually look at the performance then. So I'm just going to pull up here, and I've got this special data equipment in the car with me. So I'm just going to stop. I'm in the diesel. I'm going to see what it can do 0 to 60. All right, here we go. That's an all right start. I have to change up just before 5,000 RPM. And that is 60. There we go. So this machine says I did it in 11.7 seconds to 60. Really, you're not going to be doing that very often. What's more likely is you're sat on the motorway, you're cruising along in top gear, and you want to overtake. So here I am at the moment doing 60 miles an hour, going to floor it, see how long it takes me to get to 70. Classic overtaking maneuver. So it's building speed, and here we go. So that got from 60 to 70 in 7.1 seconds. Not bad. Okay then, I've jumped into the petrol version of the Kadjar. Now I should point out that this particular car has the automatic gearbox. The automatic gearbox gives pretty much the same economy as the manual. It also gives similar performance as well. So I'm going to do the performance test. I'm going to do a 0 to 60 sprint time, and well, I'm just going to do it. It's very easy in an automatic. Just put your foot down, the car goes. Now as you can see, this engine revs to 6,000 RPM, so you can hold onto its gears for longer. And what does that do to the 0 to 60 time? It says I've done it in 10 seconds, but what about in gear accelerating on the motorway? So I'm going to lock this automatic gearbox in top. I'm going to accelerate from 60 to 70. So I'm going to floor it now, see what happens. Come on, car. Right. The speed is building, but it's building slower. And I've now done 70. There we go. So what did it do? So that took 8.5 seconds. So essentially, if you like to do fast away from the light starts, let's say you're driving town quite a bit, get the petrol. If you want effortless overtaking on the motorway, i.e. you do a lot of miles, get the diesel. Another thing to consider when choosing between a petrol car or a diesel car is your comfort. So petrol engines are generally quieter. If I lean in, you can hear the engine tick over, and they're smoother. So if I put this bottle of water on there, you can see how much it vibrates or doesn't vibrate. Now if I move over to this diesel, I mean almost immediately you'll hear that it's quite a bit louder. And if I put this water bottle on there this time, it's definitely vibrating a lot more. Diesels aren't as smooth and they're not as quiet. Then there's the fuel itself. If you get diesel on your hands, it really is quite smelly. It's even smellier than petrol. I hope this video has helped explain some of the pros and cons between buying a diesel or a petrol car, and has allayed some of your fears surrounding some of the media coverage about diesels. Remember, most of the problems relate to old diesels, so you shouldn't rule out buying a modern diesel car entirely. It could still work out the most ecological and economical option for you. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it and subscribe to our channel, and click on the video windows to watch some more of our excellent videos.